Hello everyone, we're turning a corner this week in our drawing. We are going from sort of a mechanical linear perspective to freehand linear perspective. So we're going to, for the most part, abandon our ruled lines, and everything that we do will be drawn freehand. And so this is going to work for you because you've already had a basic introduction to linear perspective. And so when you look at something, when you observe something, especially in the beginning with the subject matter that we're going to focus on, you're going to have two resources. One is you're going to understand what you're seeing because you know how linear perspective works, and you're going to develop your powers of observation. And so I'm going to give you a list of rules, techniques that we're going to adopt for the rest of the semester. The first one is see first, then draw. Now that might sound kind of obvious, but it actually is kind of hard to do because you have to slow down and actually look at something and comprehend it to some extent at least before you draw it. So we're going to say that rule number one, no cutting corners, right? We're going to see first and then draw. Observe carefully before we make any marks. The second rule is hold your drawing tool, your pencil, in drawing position. And so this is a little bit different than what you're used to because you're used to writing with a pencil or whatever, a stylus. And you hold it this way, and it works very well for that, but not very much for drawing. So we're going to say that you're going to hold things a little differently, and this is how it works. Hold your hand out like this, place the pencil here. Notice that the tip is further away from the hand, and so you're going to hold it like this. And that allows you to draw in many directions, and you can see what's happening instead of the line being hidden by your hand to some extent. So we're going to say that this is the way we're going to hold the pencil. This is called holding the pencil in drawing position. Right, rule number three is called using motor strokes, and this term will not be familiar to you, I'm guessing, and so I'm going to explain it to you. When we write with a pencil and do it this way, we're using small muscle groups in our fingers. We want to use larger muscle groups. In fact, with drawing, we want to use the largest muscle group we can possibly use. And what this means is that if you can, you want to use your shoulder muscles, and these are allow you to make some very long and carefully controlled lines. If that doesn't work, if you can't get far enough away from your drawing, which is usually the case actually, we'll be mostly using elbows to draw like this. And so this is going to allow us to make the kinds of marks you'll need to make to get a good drawing. It has to do with line quality, but we won't go into that right now. The next technique that I want you to adopt is called drawing through. And so let me show you what that means. When we draw through, we use motor strokes. These techniques are interrelated, so it's going to make it a little easier for you to adopt them. When we draw through, we're using motor strokes to make long, fairly straight lines like this. And so this is called using the motor stroke. But when we draw through, what we're doing is we're drawing in a way that's very different than what you're used to. Normally, we'll be drawing boxes at first, and normally what you would do to draw a box is you would go like this, and then you would go like this, and these are very final lines that you draw, and they start and stop at very important spots, right? So we would go about it that way. That's probably not news to you. We're not going to do that, and this is going to take some getting used to. When we draw through, we're using motor strokes to do this. So we're not going to start here and stop here. We're going to capture the angle, right? And we're going to draw through like this. And the starting and stopping will occur when lines intersect. So what I'm actually giving you permission to do is not worry about everything all at once. You're just going to get these angles right and not worry about where they start and stop. So this next drill is one that's going to bother you a little bit. And so here it is. Don't erase. See that little thing? Get rid of it. We're not going to erase because we don't need to erase. And here's why. Is it because you don't make mistakes? No. It's because in drawing the way that I'm asking you to draw, we do make mistakes, but they are marginalized as we proceed with the drawing. So we're not going to erase it all. In fact, we want those mistakes to stay slightly visible in our drawing because it helps the viewer understand and it helps us kind of see our progress. So no erasing. It's going to be hard to do, but just bite the bullet and refrain from using that eraser. All right, the next technique or rule that we're going to use is called making sidings. And in order to do this, you are going to use your straight edge. We're not going to use the straight edge to actually make lines. We're going to use it as an observational tool. And when we make a siding, we hold the ruler up like this, usually close the non-dominant eye. And what we're doing is we're assessing angles. When you make a siding, there's only one reason you do it, and it's to get the angles right, to understand them. So if this were the box I was looking at, I would be holding my tool up like this along that angle so that I can get a feel for it, literally a feel. I would also be holding my ruler up like this so I could see how far it departs from a horizontal. And by doing both of those things, I'm seeing first, then drawing, because I'm not going to make a mark until I feel like I understand that angle. And when I feel like I've gotten an understanding of it, I'm going to draw it like this with motor strokes and drawing through. This is called making sidings. The next one is one that you're already familiar with, so I'm not going to explain it in the detail that I normally would if it were, if I were introducing it. This technique appears in another video in which I show you how to make comparisons. And the way, or the reason that we make comparisons, there's only one reason: we want to get the proportions right. And so when I make a comparison, I'm locking my elbow, holding my straight edge up, and I'm locking onto a dimension or a size, say the edge of the door and the corner of the room, and then I'm going to keep my elbow locked and move this over so I can find out how many of those it takes to fit into something else. That's called making a comparison. Now, as I said, you can watch that video that details this. Also, it's imperative that if there's something you don't understand, that you contact me and that we organize a help session. And we would do that during the regularly scheduled hours for the class. Now, if that doesn't work for you, then we can figure something else out, but that's the go-to. And far too many of you are neglecting the opportunity to get some in-person help. It can clear up a lot of problems in a very short time, at least ideally, so we'll see. Those are the techniques. We're going to use them for the rest of the semester. Get good at them. They will not come naturally at first, especially if you've had a lot of drawing experience, because you've kind of developed a groove, and I'm asking you to get out of the groove or the rut and get into another rut, right? So it's going to take some discipline no matter who you are. And I promise you that if you'll use these techniques, you're going to get better a lot faster, and you'll be rather surprised at how much your drawing improves. So stick with it, and I look forward to seeing your drawings.